Okay people, Black Clover, it'll never be the same again after this latest event with Yuno seemingly obtaining 2 Grimoires. Now that's right people, the non-stop rivalry between Asta and Yuno on who can one-up the next man continues this time around with Yuno gaining a new power in a second Grimoire. However, before somebody comes on to this video and says, yo, this doesn't make sense, oh my god, this is terrible, how the heck this happened, there's actually a lot of logic behind it if you've been following up until this point, in particular especially with the Elf arc and Lit and what Yuno was and what Yuno is, because obviously you're gonna be like, wait a minute, how does he have 2 Grimoires? Who has 2 Grimoires? Since when does that happen? But indeed it actually makes sense, and on top of that, this just put Yuno yet again in the running of surpassing his rival, because throughout this arc in particular, the Spade Nation invasion, Asta and Yuno have been again in a competition, even though it doesn't really seem so, of who can be the strongest. We just had Asta go into this new Devil Union transformation with Lieb, which is very, very hacked, but obviously he got a time limit, and now Yuno in the battle against Zenon has taken it to another level. Let's break it down, why it makes sense, why it isn't BS, and just in general, Yuno, pretty freaking hype stuff to say the least. Let's do it.
No matter how you feel, get it done. No matter how you feel, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
So like I said in the intro, yes, Yuno does indeed have 2 Grimoires, and yes, people, it does make sense. It was foreshadowed to a certain degree. This could go this route. And on top of that, the way it was done, because Tabata wanted to make sure that Yuno not only struggled, not only it felt hopeless, but then it came to a point where, okay, something had to change. You know, it's that time, either somebody's going to come rescue him, a power-up's going to come, something needs to be done in order to put him in the running to be able to take on Zenon, and with it became this notion of, yo, fam got 2 books now, fam, he's really book smart. No? Because from where we last left off, Finral and Longwrist thought they had a slither of hope against Zenon, which, come on, fam. I was a little bit irritated on Tabata on that aspect. I was like, really, Tabata, like, who you think you fooling that they have a shot in hell? That's like throwing Krillin against Beerus and saying, yeah, fam, like, maybe Krillin can get the job done. Like, come on. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that they're like complete weaklings or anything like that, but in terms of the different class, the different obvious power scale that we're talking here with Zenon and Longwrist and Finral, it's night and day, people, night and day. Because again, where we last left off and where we begin, Finral and Longwrist are charging Zenon as if they have a slither of hope to take him down, and Finral even recognizes and thinks to himself like, yo, we gotta end this quick. Longwrist is down and out already. Like, yo, he's taking a massive beating at the hands of this guy. We gotta get something done. And I'm just there thinking to myself, like, why, Tabata? Why even entertain this? Like, I guess in a sense of a last stand struggle of like, yo, we gotta try and do something. It's kind of cool in that aspect, but just in terms of like, nobody believed. And if you did, I don't know what you're reading, fam, but why would you believe that Finral and Longwrist, again, have a shot in the dark? Like, the difference between, for example, Manga versus Dante and this is that Manga, literally every waking moment that he took, which to this point is still probably my favorite fight of the entire Spade arc, he took every moment serious and trained and set up a plan for that very moment to ensnare Dante and do it. That was legendary, I ain't gonna lie. It was just like a massively put plan. Finral and Longwrist is kind of like, yo, we brothers, let's team up, fam. Like, it's not gonna work. However, even though Finral and Longwrist, they have their little plan, Zenon also knows what to expect, and he ain't really worried that much. If I was Zenon, I probably wouldn't be that worried either, but yeah, he's not that worried. And they do manage to teleport behind him, seemingly catching him off guard for a split second, and Finral explains that between a combination of myself and my brother of using this mana to boost the speed, and then my brother's space magic, like, yo, we cutting through, like, it ain't gonna be no stopping us. So again, decent plan at the very least, like, yo, if we're gonna try something, why not this? However, it didn't mean a thing, because even though it looked like they cut him for a moment or something like that, like they were trying to go for that devil's heart, it's Zenon. It's one of the Dark Triad. We're not doing this. Because we cut from that to Yuno waking up and he's like, yo, where am I? Am I in the afterlife? Like, yo, did Longwrist get his ass whipped too? You gotta think for a moment. Yuno not seeing Longwrist anywhere, not seeing Zenon, he's probably mad as hell. Like, yo, don't tell me Longwrist caught that W. I'm gonna be real pissed off. Yo, if he caught that W, that just kind of invalidated my whole existence right now. However, we see that Zenon has them down bad. He has Finral stabbed through, and he got Longwrist on the ground, looking like he's begging for mercy. And it also demonstrates just how strong a devil's heart is, where he says, even spatial magic that erases everything couldn't destroy a devil's heart, which, yeah, if that was going to be a sacrifice that he made, similar to like when Asta made that deal with Leave and he sacrificed his arm in order to get that power, if you're going to sacrifice your whole everything, like, yo, take my mind, body, and soul on some Illuminati type of stuff, you should be going after something that is worthwhile. And he went after a devil's heart, which is clearly impervious to any damn near thing you could throw at it, including something that is a buff, because again, realistically, if the plan would have been against any other type of normal adversary, they probably would have won and it would have been effective. But again, this is a devil's heart, so even though they were blitzing through with this gigantically fast magic and space magic and all that jazz, it's a devil's heart. So I guess that also proves that, yo, what Zenon did wasn't in vain of like sacrificing himself for a devil's heart, because at first, I ain't gonna lie, I was like, a devil's heart? Like, yo, we seen Vonica just, or Magicula in particular, getting kind of curb stomped with a devil's heart, so I wasn't sure how that was going to work. But again, also on top of that, it is Finral Longwrist, and this is supposed to be one of the Dark Triad. Yeah, a devil's heart shouldn't be that easy to take out. And Yuno notices that it's actually Finral there with Longwrist, Longwrist's brother. He's like, oh snap, that's from Asta's guild. I really gotta do something, fam. Like, a part of me feels like a very small part of the competitive nature of Asta and Yuno kind of kicked into that moment as well, where he's like, yo, Asta's people think they're gonna come save my people? Like, right now? No, that's not what we're doing here. But all jokes aside, Yuno recognizes, like, yo, they're both about to be killed, and I can't do anything. And I'll be honest with you, this chapter in particular, I feel like actually this arc, there's been little elements here and there of inspiration from Dragon Ball. I've said it multiple times at this point during this arc that I've seen Tabata, for whatever reason, has been inspired by Dragon Ball to do a lot of things and power-ups and events and things like that. And in particular, I feel like Prince Yuno was inspired very heavily, and even in this chapter, by Prince Vegeta. Because Zenon is basically like, I win. You know, he got them all down. Yuno's down. Finral is stabbed through. Longwrist is out on the ground. There's like, he pretty much thinks like, yo, it's in the bag. And I also loved the inner monologue and basically seeing the development of Yuno and everything that he went through to get to this point. It gave a lot of characterization. It gave a lot of character development, again, from where he was to where he's at now. Because just keeping it real, Yuno hasn't been the most fruitful, most diverse character. A lot of people would say he's kind of vanilla. So to actually see what Tabata managed to do in between the last arc of the elf arc, the elf invasion, and the devil that showed up, to where we're at right now, you could definitely throw the argument that, yeah, Yuno has grown a lot, and his character has been more shown, shall I say, to be a little bit even more diverse than originally he was. Because he thinks back, he says, did I make the wrong choice? You know, half of the Golden Dawn were killed. How he asserted himself at the captain's meeting, you know, when Noct called that big meeting, and then he even said like, yo, no, I'm going to be a part of this brigade in order to try and stop and take down the Dark Triad and stop everything from happening. Even him training like hell, you know, for the gifted to also train, which is something that is interesting because, you know, hard work can surpass straight raw talent. However, when the raw talent also incorporates hard work and training, you got a problem, Asta. Because if a gifted person decides, you know what, not only am I gifted, but I'm going to take my gifts to the next level, similar to, like, think of Frieza. Interesting. Frieza, where he actually decided for the first time in his life to train, it was devastating, right? Because, like, you know, he was Frieza from the Frieza saga to all of a sudden he's Golden Frieza competing with the likes of gods and stuff like that. And Tabata snapped on the art side of things, just, again, putting it at a desperate situation of, Yuno feeling helpless, when you get that panel, that close-up of his face, of him crying there, feeling basically helpless, because it's like, it seems like it's over. It seems like, yo, it's curtains at this point. He can't help nobody. One of Asta's people is going to die along with Longwrist, one of the last from the Golden Dawn. Like, it feels like a terrible situation, which, again, kind of goes into the emotional aspect of what ultimately is about to occur with Yuno. And it goes even further into Yuno's character, which, again, I got to commend Tabata on really trying to just dive a little deep into Yuno's character and make him less vanilla, so to speak, and ultimately a character that you can actually appreciate, that there's layers to him, because he's even going further and thinking, you know, everyone called me a genius. I was the hope of Hodge Village. I was envied, hated, loved, like all sorts of stuff. Just, again, even showing that he was actually cognitive of all of the things that people thought of him, whether people envied him, whether people loved him, whether people, whatever it was, Yuno actually was there in the moment to understand and recognize it. Again, just giving a little bit more to his character than just, hey, I'm Yuno and I'm awesome, god damn it. And I love how one of the last triggers to getting him to that point was he's like, no, you know, I remember my vow with Asta. I made a vow with him to, you know, to be the Wizard King, the competition. This is not all I am. And Prince Yuno becomes Prince Vegeta, essentially, because I felt like this whole lead up to what ultimately happens, where the voice calls out to him to essentially give him that second grimoire, it was definitely, in my opinion, inspired by, or you could even say just lightly inspired by, when Vegeta was down in the dumps and how Vegeta became Super Saiyan. If you remember back in Dragon Ball Z, one of the things that led the Prince of all Saiyans to becoming Super Saiyan was the fact that he felt almost helpless. He felt like, wow, you know, just completely destroyed by that meteor. You could argue it's a little bit different, because opposed to when Vegeta said, I don't care anymore, no, Yuno cares desperately. So it was like a different type of take, but nevertheless a desperate situation for a prince to ultimately unlocking a power that he's had all along, which kind of also just shows how broken Yuno really is all along, because essentially he's been using a magic that isn't even really necessarily his magic per se, because a voice speaks out to him, but you have your own power as well. And a grimoire appears and a flash of light that a lot of people could actually see even from afar. You see, I believe his name is Ralph, the person from the Spade that came over to, you know, help Yuno, that was, I believe, connected with Yuno's father and his parents and all that jazz. You see him like, holy cow, I knew it, I knew Master Yuno. And then you also see Patri, which Patri's line right there explains everything. For anybody that want to come and say, oh my god, this is so BS, how does Yuno have two grimoires? Who has two grimoires? It is completely, perfectly, logically explained with Patri in general. Like, just for example, look at Patri and who and what he was in terms of, you know, the duality between him and William Vengeance in one body. Because Patri says, it's as I thought, his wind magic. It's Lit's and Tetia's. And if you remember correctly, going back to the Elf arc, Yuno was inhabited by the dead body or the dead spirit of Lit's unborn child. So essentially, that possibly child is even still within Yuno right now, or his magic, his mana stood within him. So essentially, that's not even Yuno's power. This entire series, Yuno has not even been using his own power and still been that dude, that Yuno, you know what I'm saying? And we get one of those triumphant moments of, you know, the comeback for the comeback. Because Yuno says, I'll save my captain and the others, I'll save the kingdom to become Wizard King, and so you're going down. Basically, I'm about to whip your ass, boy. And it's revealed in a very epically drawn shot of Yuno with two grimoires getting ready to use his actual magic ability alongside, again, the spirit of Lit's son's magic, the wind magic, which imagine just alone using his next magic that he hasn't used if it's something really broken, because again, Lit is a very special being. Imagine what it's going to be. But also, just there's been hints all throughout the series about the second grimoire. Like, you could actually connect it very easily. The fact that, well, he's beloved by Mana. Who would be beloved by Mana other than an elf? And don't forget, Lit's son was half elf. So ultimately, like, yeah, you're going to be loved by Mana in that aspect, but also just in general, this is some hype stuff. Yuno's next power, what is it going to be? That's going to be the very big key in how he defeats Zenon. On top of that, using it in unison with his wind power can be massively devastating. But first, we got to get this power, which it looks like Yuno has something coming through his hand. I'm not sure if that's the bones from Zenon that's making it break through his hand, or it's going to be something totally different. Very curious what you guys think, though. For starters, big question. Do you feel like it's BS that Yuno has two grimoires now, that he once again one-up Asta on the power-up, power scale thingy-majig? Also, what do you think Yuno's next magic is going to be? How do you feel about Yuno's big connection still to this point to Lit's deceased son? And your overall thoughts and expectations for everything and how it's going to go down. This was hype. I love it when Yuno has his moments, because we come from the days of, again, Yuno being, oh, he's vanilla, so to speak. So to see all the character development in full display, this chapter literally showed everything. That's really dope, and I love to see it. And your overall thoughts and expectations for the Black Clover manga with chapter 309 and beyond. It's about to get wild, baby. Yuno, two grimoires, new powers, the Prince of all Spade. Let's go. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and Yuno, two grimoires. Asta gonna be mad as shit, like, goddamn, I gotta do another power up. Have an awesome day.
Such a